Hey folks, Devin Doan here, lead content producer at Loft 100 Studios. You're tuned into The Big Biz Show. But before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about a favorite American pastime, white-collar crime. Specifically today, we're talking about Ponzi schemes, those financial house of cards that always collapse, leaving everyone broke. It's named after one of its original masterminds, Charles Ponzi. The scheme has transcended time, technology, and cultures. It's an immortal scam, powered by the perfect cocktail of greed and ignorance. Some might even argue that the entire US financial system is a giant Ponzi scheme, and by some, I mean me, but hang tight, we'll get to that. What is a Ponzi scheme? Let's start with the basics. Charles Ponzi was an Italian immigrant with big dreams and a knack for bad decisions. After blowing through his father's inheritance in college, because let's face it, who hasn't, he bounced from one hustle to another all over North America. At one point, even working as a coyote, smuggling immigrants across the Canadian border. Talk about a flip from today, right? Eventually, he landed in Boston, where most bad things happen. Eventually, he landed in Boston, where he claimed to have cracked the code for turning postal reply coupons into gold. Investors saw crazy returns and word spread, but the truth, there were no profits. Ponzi was simply taking money from new investors to pay old ones, and when the new money dried up, the whole scheme collapsed, taking thousands of investors and several banks down with it. It's simple. Promise insane returns and use new money to pay old investors. Hope nobody notices, buy a yacht. Easy, right? The whole thing relies on a constant influx of cash though, and when that stops, game over. Now here's the kicker. Charles Ponzi wasn't even the first to run this con. Back in the 1870s, a woman in Germany named Adele Spitzeder used the same rob Peter to pay Paul strategy to fleece people. So, shout out to Adele out there for proving Ponzi schemes have always been an equal opportunity grift. Shout out ladies. But who took the cake? Who is the undisputed king of Ponzi schemes?
Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff. Let's see what it takes to earn a 150-year prison sentence. Now, Madoff started out legit, too legit to quit, building one of Wall Street's most successful trading firms. By the 1980s, he was a NASDAQ chairman, a trusted figure in finance, and the go-to guy for high-profile investors. But behind the curtain, Madoff was running a $65 billion scheme, using new money to pay old returns while skimming billions off the top for himself. Sound familiar? Well, what brought him down? The same thing that always does. The money ran out. The 2008 financial crisis hit, and then investors tried to pull their funds. Madoff couldn't keep up. The scheme collapsed, he admitted to it, and then was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Good. That guy. Anyways, the twist, Madoff's bombshell claim. Here's where it gets wild. After his conviction, Madoff reportedly told visitors there was actually a bigger Ponzi scheme out there than the first, one to dwarf them all. The US financial system.
No one has any criminal convictions. The whole new regulatory reform is a joke. The whole government is a Ponzi scheme.
That's right. According to Madoff, the endless borrowing, money printing, and bond buying spree are just a more sophisticated version of what he did. And here's the kicker. He might not be wrong. Now let's be clear. The US financial system isn't a Ponzi scheme in the traditional sense. Unlike Charles Ponzi or Bernie Madoff, the government has tools like taxation, monetary policy, and economic growth to manage its debt. However, the cracks begin to show when debt grows faster than the economy itself.
In order for the US economy to function, we have to borrow more and more money from the rest of the world. And the more money they loan us today, the more money they have to loan us in the future. And if they ever stop loaning, the whole thing collapses and we can't pay them back.
At that point, we're not far off from the same mechanics that brought down Ponzi and Madoff, relying on endless new money just to keep the cycle alive. It don't work that way, guys. And if lenders, whether foreign governments, institutions, or taxpayers, lose confidence in the system, the whole thing starts to wobble. And that's when the parallels to a Ponzi scheme become kind of hard to ignore. It's a balancing act, and the stakes couldn't be any higher. Just like me.
If they didn't keep creating new money in larger and larger amounts, the whole thing would crash, because that's where the money comes from to pay off the previous loans. It's the new loans. So that's why it's a Ponzi scheme. It's a classic Ponzi scheme.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys chew on that one for a while. Let's see what the rest of the crew is up to at the big desk. I'm Devin Doan, and you're watching The Big Biz Show.
Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
Loft 100 Studios, the Big Biz Show, and our affiliates and our hosts are not registered investment advisors or broker-dealers.
Our show hosts make no commitment that the purchase of securities of companies profiled or otherwise mentioned in our programming
are suitable or advisable for any person, or that an investment in such securities will be profitable in general.
Given the nature of the company's profile and the lack of an active trading market for the securities, investing is highly speculative and carries a certain high degree of risk.
We profile selected publicly traded and privately held companies on our program.
Most of these companies that we profile have provided compensation to Loft 100 Studios and its hosts for the profile coverage.
From time to time, we sell shares of the companies profiled in the open market that we receive as compensation for coverage of client companies.
But never sell stocks if we are speaking about interviewing or covering a public company who has paid compensation.
Specific questions on compensation can be obtained by contacting producer at sullygroup.com.
Listeners should verify all claims and do their own due diligence before investing in any securities mentioned on this program.
Investing in securities is speculative and carries a high degree of risk.
We encourage our investors to invest carefully and read the investor information available at the websites on the
Securities and Exchange Commission at sec.gov and or the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, at www.finra.org. A big old howdy to you, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Costa, Mary Burt Godwin, our executive producer, Greg Todorov. This is our, I think this is our first post-Thanksgiving show.
Yeah.
Hope everybody out there had a great holiday. We certainly did. Always great to be back here in studio with all of you, as I said, wherever you're watching or wherever you are listening. And of course, the world famous DTT. You missed if I didn't mention them as well. Oh, nailed it.
It was a little bit like couldn't tell what you were doing.
Yeah,
it was like you guys did a good job reading that weird thing he did.
It was almost tongues and guns. But
There, tongues and guns.
Thank you, guys.
It's also our first post Black Friday show.
Right.
Which did anyone partake in the old online shopping?
No.
Am I the only one?
No,
probably.
You're not the only one.
Greg, did you do any shopping?
On Cyber Monday.
Oh, better. Yeah.
Which started the previous Monday. It was a whole week.
Totally.
It is a whole.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't even right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole world is moving and grooving because we get into the Christmas and the holidays and stuff like that. Joining us, he is our financial analyst here on the financial expert here on the Big Biz Show. Our good buddy Howie Font with us. Howie, belated happy Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great holiday.
Thanks, you guys as well.
Yeah.
I'm sad to say I did not participate in any Black Friday or Cyber anything.
Good for you. Did you fly anywhere?
No, I actually was local. Took a little train. It's the beauty of the tri-state metro area.
Gotcha.
Nice.
What do we do as a nation as far as flights and things like that and cancellations and whatnot?
Yeah, apparently I was the only one that didn't fly. I mean, we are hitting we're hitting record numbers, both year on year and then pre-pandemic. The same thing was true, by the way, in 4th of July. There was also record-setting numbers there. So a little surprising when you see headlines like Spirit Airlines going bankrupt. But I think it means that people will pay for flights that aren't crappy, if I can say that on air. I mean,
exactly.
Well, Howie, I have a question about this because I have a bunch of upcoming travel in the new year. So I was especially on Travel Tuesday and trying to find deals flights are so expensive. It seems
are.
astronomical. So I was really surprised to read that everyone's just still flying and paying these astronomical fees. Even with the Travel Tuesday deals, they weren't really deals. It was a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to beat the system now. I mean, there used to be the thing where, well, the system resets every Friday at midnight or Thursday. I think it was Tuesday at midnight or something like that. People used to do. I think it's pretty savvy, and they have, think of the AI that's open to the public. They've got their own internal stuff optimizing for flights. I think it is true that if you look at a flight and then go back to it, it'll be $100 more expensive. That's crazy to me, but definitely seems to be the case.
I searched in a browser. What do you call it? A hidden browser? What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, and in
dark web.
The dark web. That's another segment.
Mike and Greg might be able to tell us more about that.
I've never heard of it before. Just in my notes.
This is private browsing. It's just a new member of the Army. That's all. Private browsing. That's yeah.
In an undiscovered, what's it called when you a hidden browser? There's a word for it. Anyway, whatever.
Incognito.
Incognito. That's the word I'm looking for. So anyway, I search there and then I go back to buy it. But yeah, it's still crazy. And then I'll try to go to Hopper or one of these other sites to find a deal, but it's the same exact price as it is on the actual United website or whatever. So I'm trying to game a system.
Incredible. It's surprising that there's so much demand. I mean, and that's just what it is. People want to be flying. There's more people in the country every year. More people want to go places. I know we talk about inflation a lot, but part of inflation is wages. And if people have got the dough, they spend it. They don't. Our savings rate is nil. So in some sense, it's a perfect formula for the airlines.
Howie Font's our Big Biz Show market analyst. Howie, I was going to ask you, is it an indicator that our economy may not be as bad as maybe politicians would lead us to believe, the fact that we set records as far as people traveling, and then you look at the figures from Black Friday, you look at the figures, Greg helped the economy on a Cyber Monday. People got money to spend.
Yeah, I was thinking very similar things as you, trying to explain the phenomenon, because I don't think we're underlyingly very healthy. Maybe we are relative to the rest of the world.
Are you talking about me personally or just the United States? Because I'll agree with you.
No, you've got that Vivos thing going on. I think it's gonna make you 6 feet taller too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Slender Man walking around.
I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I think it is two things. One, there's segments of the economy, right? So the percentage of people that fly still tends to be an upper class thing. I wouldn't say upper class, but definitely there's a bulk of the population that does not fly at all or very rarely. Mm-hmm. So there's a flying class, quote unquote. And then I would also say we are more and more comfortable with debt, especially when we have good jobs and the unemployment rate is relatively low like it is. I'm seeing weakness in that, but it is still relatively low historically. So we're going to run our deficits, pretty thin when times are good. It's a little counterintuitive. You should build up your savings for a rainy day, but people don't act like that.
President Trump is going to be handing out tariffs like a department store Santa Claus once he takes the oath of office. But before I ask you about that, do you expect any sort of pardon from President Joe Biden before he leaves office, Howie?
For me personally, no. I think my crimes are mostly going to be hidden. They are talking about pardoning a couple political figures. Fauci, I think, is on the list. Yep. There's a few more, and I think it's important to remember the reason why we give one guy this random ability to, wipe the slate clean. It's to kind of, one, show a little bit of mercy, and to fill the gaps that, any system can't. There has to be play in the joints in all these political systems, and that's what our government is. It's a political system. So I don't think it was an amazing thing to pardon your son for, in the most broad way possible.
Exactly.
Maybe you could have defended a little bit better, just doing the stuff that's currently on the table because that's been very politicized and maybe he's not getting a fair shake. He shouldn't be above or below the law. So that's the argument there. But a blanket is President Biden trying to end the story for good, and
I think it is
kind of
too.
does. Yeah.
Howie got to run, brother. Howie Font, our market analyst here on the Big Biz Show. Howie, always great to talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon, brother. Thank you.
Howie.
All right, more of the Big Biz Show. Keep it right here after this. In over 175 countries, in all the ships at sea. As always, we say thank you to the men and women of our United States Armed Forces for what they do and what they have done for us. It is the Big Biz Show, live from the Loft 100 studios in Southern California. Costa, Marybird Godwin, our executive producer, Greg Todorov, with you. Normally, Sully is standing here, but as happens sometimes with him, he gets very, very, very busy. And then they come to me and they say, dude, you gotta stand in for the guy.
Take the helm.
Yeah, and I'm always happy to do it. Personally, I think I do a much better job than he does. But that's a story for another day, anything like that.
Take a vote. I don't know.
Yeah, let's take a vote.
take a vote.
And always thanks to the DTT,
Always.
or the greatest in the business. Yeah, see, they applaud me because they know I do such a great job.
They're the best.
Yeah, they are the best. With us today is Patrick Summers, the CEO owner of General Air Plumbing and Electric. And this is a guy, this is one of those great stories of somebody who just kind of set their sights on a goal and has been achieving not only that goal, but many more in his life in this line of work, personally and professionally. Patrick, welcome to the Big Biz Show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here, man.
We're honored to have you. How does one start in the HVAC, electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, heating business?
Well, the most direct route is trade school or find a company that will train you on the job. I took the long route. I'm 52. I got into it about 14 years ago.
Okay.
And I did everything in between up until that point. So I took the long way, but it's a pretty simple thing to get into,
right?
If it's what you want. And there's plenty of companies out there. That's the amazing thing, is companies out there that will do on-the-job training.
Can I ask a question about trade school? You mentioned that because I have daughters that are teenagers. One's a senior looking to apply to colleges, but there is a lot of talk about maybe skipping college, going to a JC, and or going right into it. What are trade schools? Are they 2-year schools? And can you?
So there's 6-month school, there's 1-year school, there's 2-year school. I actually dropped out of trade school because I got hired by General Air Conditioning and Plumbing. And what they were teaching me there and paying me, it was like an accelerated program. And I was like, I'm not driving to go to school at night when I got a company that's willing to pay me and invest in me and train me. But the trade schools are good. But here's the thing. You go to trade school, it's just like you're a doctor. You go to medical school, you're not going out and doing surgery, right? You got to put your time in on the job to get that. And that's where, when you're actually with a company, and if you have a company that will train you, man, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, getting hands-on experience is better.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then you get paid. And that's
that's the good part. Yeah.
Patrick Summers, the CEO, owner of General Air Plumbing and Electric. The website is callthegeneral.com. So when you've got somebody who comes into your company and saying, hey, I'm not going to go to college. I know exactly this is what I want to do, whether I'm going to be selling HVAC systems or I want to be, roll up my sleeves, get my hands dirty as a plumber, that type of thing. How long is that normal training period, though, with your interns before you feel comfortable? And granted, you're the head of the company. You want to be able to sleep at night knowing that people are living up to the standard of General. How long is that period until you're comfortable?
So we can get somebody out in a truck on their own doing very basic type of service, right? Mostly maintenance and type of things like that, inspections, after about 6 months. Now their training is ongoing.
Okay.
Right? So in the ideal world, we bring them in 1 day a week, we train them, we have an on-site training facility. So until somebody's like has arrived,
gotcha,
2 years easily, right?
Okay.
But they're out generating revenue, taking care of problems,
Practical
learning on the job.
experience.
Yep, and you can get a guy on site or gal, right, on site. They can start their work, and then you get the more senior tech on site to then continue that training in that role. But they'll ride with somebody. Now, plumbing's a whole different animal. We're usually going to have somebody ride along for a year.
Okay. Now, and I don't know how Mary and Greg feel, but there are certain things in life where you are at the mercy of whoever the person is you're going to. And I feel that way about mechanics for my car. And I feel about that way with people who come to my house to do sort of, work on it, especially plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk about that, because I know that the general air plumbing and electric, honesty and transparency is huge with you and your workforce.
Yeah, 100%. Because there is an unknown. And here's what I tell all the technicians. When you go to a home, most of the time, there's a female that is at the home. And I said, you have to remember, that's somebody's mother, daughter, sister, grandmother.
Love it.
Right? And I said, so they don't know you, and they're letting you into their home. So one, you have to communicate really well. That's the biggest thing. You have to be a really great at communicating. You have to be totally upfront, right? And that is, find out what the problem is. And I tell people, look, our job is to find possible points of failure, right? You go to a doctor, he does a physical, you don't want him to be like, you know what, I didn't want to tell you that was going to be an issue because I didn't want to give you bad news. Right? No, your job is to find out my potential points of failure.
Yep.
And that's what we do when we go into the home, but being totally transparent, giving options. And I always tell the technicians, the first option is you can do nothing. Not a good option, but you do have that option. Now let me tell you the options we have to take care of your problem. And that really helps. It puts people at ease. Like, I can tell you no, of course you can tell us no.
Yeah.
Trustworthiness, you mentioned, that's a big thing, because I am the one that's home usually, and I don't know a lot about it. And so I have to put my faith into the person telling me this is what's wrong. And I am skeptical too sometimes, like they're just trying to upsell me and I don't really need all these things. But I do like when I do get the options like you were mentioning. But trustworthiness, I also was thinking about reviews. Do you send reviews out, requests to your customers?
We do. And we actually, so when we book a call, when someone books a call with us, we will call and let them know the technician's on the way. Then they will get a text message or an email, and it will have a picture of the technician that's coming to their home.
That's great.
It'll have a bio of that technician. And then it has kind of like the Domino's Pizza or whatever, where you click and you can see the guy on the way to your home.
Oh, cool.
So you know when they get there. And then we send out a follow-up review afterwards. And that's really good, because obviously if there's an issue, a concern, you can address it right away. And we role play with the technicians how to close out the call, to give that customer a chance to voice any concerns they may have, right, before they even get done, so it can be taken care of. But
Do you read those reviews yourself that come in?
Yeah,
Of the
they come to my email, and
Yeah.
people know whether I've got a good review or a bad review, because
Patrick Summers is the CEO owner of General Air Plumbing and Electric. His website is callthegeneral.com. If you want to get in touch with him, you need he and his staff to come out to your house. We got about a minute left. Talk about your podcast about you're about to launch.
Yeah. So Tradepreneur Show. Gonna start a podcast. I really want to get the word out about the trades, the opportunity in the trades, some of the things we talked about. How do you get into the trades?
Yes.
What are the options? College is great. I sent all my kids to college prep, Jesuit school. My oldest, she graduated, she went to esthetician school. That's the trades, right? People think plumbing, electric, welding. Esthetician, cosmetology, that's the trades, right? And so I just want to get the word out there. I want to promote the trades, and I want to have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I bet you will. Yeah. Come back on the show with us, please.
I would love to.
There's so much more to dive into. Your love of aviation. You want to hear what the podcast is doing and whatnot. Patrick Summers, CEO, owner, General Air Plumbing and Electric. Again, the website to go to, callthegeneral.com. Pat, appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All right, more of the Big Biz Show after this. Happy holidays to the Loft 100 Studios. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, welcome to the Big Biz Show. Hope everyone's having a great day. We certainly are. Costa, Marybert Godwin, Greg Todoroff. It's not tipsy. It's Sully.
Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Welcome to the Big
Somebody put something in my insurer.
Have you seen now that they're actually using Pedialyte and they're marketing it as hangover cure?
They should.
I used to have Pedialyte Pops. That was my jam.
Pedialyte's really good.
You know, the consumers have spoken.
Do you know what's
and
good for hangover?
Listen to them.
You know what's good for hangover?
Not drinking.
More booze.
Yeah, or hair of the dog.
Once somebody told
I wonder where that saying came from.
I wonder that too.
A woman, I don't think I hate middle age. That's a horrible way to put it. A woman, a Carmel Valley mom babe,
that's better.
Who was 45. You know, mom babes, they're like 40. They wear athleisure. You know, they wear Lululemon all the time.
Hair's always in a bun.
Yeah, 45 to 60. She said one time when she was overserved, because don't take responsibility for yourself.
Never.
It was a bartender. That she would wake up at 4 a.m, not feeling great. She'd have a half a glass of wine, go back to sleep, and it solved everything. So I do that every day.
Right.
What do I drink about? Wow. What do I drink about? My 4 a.m. mouthwash.
Jesus juice.
It's great. Hey, our good friend Kirk Huntsman's here, of course, Vivos. Of course, Vivos Therapeutics, the obstructive sleep apnea experts, and this has turned into a consumer service interview. And of course, Mike, going through the process here. I want to get your update in a minute, but in the meantime,
sure.
Kirk, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks.
Can I talk to you real quickly, because a couple weeks ago I saw a press release that I don't think we understood as much as we should have, but it was about the coding of insurance to whereby people are going to pay for the insurance is going to pay for this. So first of all, real quickly for the people who haven't seen it before, review obstructive sleep apnea, review your device, but let's talk about the fact that this is a pretty big game changer. Now this doesn't have to come out of pocket anymore.
Yeah, so it is a big game changer, and look, we're Vivos is addressing the 80 million people in the United States that are estimated to have obstructive sleep apnea. plus an additional 10 million children. And whenever you go to the doctor, and you want the doctor to process your insurance, they file with your insurance using what are called CPT codes. And these CPT codes are issued by the American Medical Association. And if you have a medical device or a specialized medical procedure such as Vivos, you have to go through a rigorous application process in order to have a CPT code issued. And that's
those codes are what insurance uses to justify a payment, correct? In other words, if you have a heart surgery, there's a certain code. If you've got, my left arm's completely numb like it is right now, there's a certain code. But the point is, these didn't exist before. Because, first of all, it goes to a dentist's office, and dental insurance wouldn't cover a medical device. So I'm assuming that was part of the problem, right?
Well, dentists, believe it or not, dentists are allowed to file. They have an MPI number, which allows them to file under medical insurance plans. It's not often that they do that. They typically reserve that for things like sleep apnea, and they also do that for certain oral maxillofacial surgery type procedures.
Sure. Okay.
But in this case, these new codes that were granted by the American Medical Association to Vivos are the result of a long, protracted, multi-year process of us getting with them, making them comfortable, getting our FDA clearances in order, getting all these things, getting PDAC approvals and CMS approvals. And once they saw that all that was in order and that there was good safety and efficacy data, they granted us these codes.
Well, and the reason I bring this up is this is important. So the audience is wondering why we're talking about insurance codes, right? Mm-hmm. This changes the face of revenue for you. This changes the face of shareholder value. I mean, when it comes down to, I always tell people, nobody's in the business of buying stock. People are in the business of selling stock, right? Nobody's in the business of, they're looking at your company in terms of, okay, this is a great device, but how do we sell it? This just opened up a whole new category and probably tripled the category in terms of revenue potential, right?
Right. So there's one element of this that remains, and that is to really solidify the amount of reimbursement that the payers are going to. Now they have a code which gives them permission to do this. It gives them a code to enter into the machine, into the filing. But the level of reimbursement is still sort of being done. But
Kirk, there's reimbursement where there was none before, which I think is critical, right?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Your device is an oral device that you wear after dinner. It literally, because of the way it can be modified, changes the physiology of the patient to whereby it opens the airway, but it also does a number of other things. And the process isn't immediate. However, this is something that's actually the only process of its kind, and it will eventually replace the CPAP machine, correct?
Well, it can, and it does. And I want to point out, since you guys were talking about hangovers and alcohol and whatnot, I just want Mike to really understand that excessive alcohol consumption is not going to help his OSA.
No, it's not.
And will work contrary to our efforts to fix his
You just got admonished by the CEO of the company that makes this.
I did. Yeah, I know.
And if his throat's gonna be big, can't you just pour it down easier? Oh, I'm sorry, that's your airway. I'm sorry.
Well, Kirk.
I just wanted him to just a little note to self, Mike.
I appreciate it.
Talk about getting dressed down by the boss.
Off the booze,
that's all right. That's all right.
You got called into the boss's office.
Fixes.
Well,
no 4 a.m. fixes.
Having talked with Dr. Perp, my dentist, who I went and had the whole procedure done.
Wait, first of all, so before we get there, Jared, do we have B-roll of that?
Right there.
There it is.
Here we go.
So this is Mike, when you're walking in and saying, okay, I sound like
help.
a buzzsaw, my wife's about to leave me, and I'm going to die.
Yes.
Those are the top three things, by the way.
Yeah. It's painless. It is so easy, and they literally.
So what was she explaining to you there? Was she talking to you about your physiology, like
the way my mouth is formed and how small my airway is, and everything that has to do with the way your jaw, your skull, it's all interconnected as far as the sleep apnea is concerned. And so you go in, you get these tests done. It's completely non-invasive. And they measure you, and they send it away to the great people at Vivos. And my device should be coming early next week.
So so you go back in and see them, and they tell you how to use it.
Make sure it fits your mouth right and everything like that. And you go.
So the benefits aren't only sleep. There's weight loss involved. There's health. You'll be in a Speedo by summer.
Well, to Kirk's point about you can't sit there and drink a ton of bourbon and expect your sleep apnea to go away. There has to be some delicate lifestyle changes involved with it as well. But
it's the word Funyun just dropping everybody's mouth the minute you say lifestyle.
I know. But
bacon bits and Funyuns.
The fact that I get rid of the friggin' Hannibal Lecter thing.
But you did anyway. This like 2 hours into the night, right?
Yeah.
Kirk, that's an important thing here. The CPAP machine is the only option right now for obstructive sleep apnea, and nobody's compliant. Correct? I mean, I don't happen to have one of those things, but I'm assuming. Nothing is sexier than putting a mask on your face that looks like you're in Top Gun when you go to bed.
It's miserable.
Right? So is the compliance thing's a big thing? And you guys have made this sort of easy, right, Kirk?
Compliance is really a challenge. It's the biggest challenge with CPAP. Those units are effective, but they're palliative. Remember, they give a guy like Mike the ability to live to fight another day. But they don't fix it. They don't cure it. They don't really do any of that. What the goal of Vivos treatment is to actually take his condition, remodel that airway, strengthen those tissues, make his airway more patent, which means less prone to collapse, and give him a shot at having a bigger set of pipes to breathe through for the rest of his life. Our patients are one and done, in and out of treatment in 9 to 12 months typically. And then it's game over. Now the thing about weight loss is really important here because this works with heavy people. It works with people with lower BMIs. But once they get into a routine of good deep sleep, the natural tendency is that they start to lose weight because the body wants to secrete human growth hormone at night, and instead when you have sleep apnea, it secretes cortisol.
By the way,
in my case, gravy.
By the way, Mike's not big; he's just big boned. Okay? So you said, Kirk, when you looked at his file, your airways is narrow. By the way, Mike had this behind his ear all through the 80s. He was in a bar. But the long story short, but you said like the depth of a cocktail straw was how thin his airway was. And the interesting part of that thing is you're walking around all day long, and you do your sleep study. No wonder you feel like you're fatigued. No wonder you feel like
dusk comes and you're just like.
And Sully, you mentioned something just a few minutes ago. I want to just point out. You said it might take some time for the effects of this to take place. That's true when it comes to the permanent resolution of this thing. But Mike will start to feel better almost immediately.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I've got to go to the sleep center and spend the night at this place to do. There is a ring you take home, and you put it on, and you hook it up.
Did you find out how many times per night you're waking up?
Oh yeah,
the whole thing. Huh?
Oh my God, a bunch of times.
So you basically haven't slept in like 10 years.
Pretty much. No. But the sleep test is so easy to do. You do it in your own bed, and like I said, it's a little ring that monitors everything, and that's a huge hurdle for a lot of people.
Kirk, brother, thanks so much. I'm sure we'll see you next week. I appreciate it. Kirk, Huntsman, Vivos. By the way, Mike, I love when you do this on the air.
Sorry.
It's always a good look. You know when you first walk into a bar too? Hi, how are you? Good.
We are live at the Loft 100 Studios in sunny Southern California. It is the holiday season. It's time to be jolly.
Happy Hanukkah.
That as well.
Covered it all.
Costa sitting here at the bar. The lady next to me is Marybert Godwin. Of course, our executive producer is Greg Todorov and Sully.
Can you guys give me a new belt because I'm swimming in these? I'm a reed.
Wow, you don't have any holes left. Pretty impressive.
I'm getting a couple of piercings, so when I ride a bike, I whistle. One of our viewers or listeners contacted our executive producer, Greg Todorov, and talked about a company called inTEST Corporation. He said, you got to talk to these guys. So what does Greg do? Since I'm so very important and I carry a lot of big stick, I got the CEO.
Yep.
And the CEO. His name is Nick Grant, President and CEO of inTEST Corporation, stock symbol INTT, inTEST.com. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm going to just leave it to him, but I got to tell you, man, hey, thanks for coming on the show. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, can you give us, because you're new to the program and we're everywhere. We've got people listening in Bahrain, we got people listening in New York and watching TV in Dallas and so on and so forth. Give us an overview of what inTEST does.
Yeah, so inTEST is an innovative test and process technologies company. And, I believe we make some of the best testing solutions on the market for semiconductor, automotive, defense, aerospace applications.
So Greg Todorov was telling me, like in detail, what you did is exactly what he said. So talk about the market size and talk about when you talk about the testing market. Is this an enterprise-wide solution for several industries, or are we just talking about one specific sort of lane here?
No, we serve a wide variety of industries. Our served market's roughly about $2 billion. And a great company, been around 40 years, just really looking to untap and transform this company over the last 4 years since I joined.
Talk about specifically what you guys are doing over the next year or so that sort of makes you the tiebreaker. What makes you bigger, better, faster, stronger, cheaper, pursuant to whoever else is in the market?
Yeah, we've got a 5-point strategy we've laid out here to really unlock the potential of this company, and that's geographic expansion. We're investing in markets where we're underserved or acquiring businesses that give us a better footprint in these geographies out there. Innovation and differentiation is another key strategy to drive that top line growth, staying ahead of the competition, really looking to develop solutions that are more standardized, that can be late stage customized to specific customer applications to be able to get that value added, higher margin sales. Service and support is a third strategy for us. We've elevated our portfolio here, offering service agreements, offering remote monitoring.
Nick, not to interrupt, but you're like a one-stop solution here.
We're trying to be, absolutely.
Nick Grant is the president and CEO of inTEST Corp. Their stock symbol, ticker symbol is INTT. Nick, is it mostly testing done pre-market as far as what your company is testing per se?
Yeah, so we wide variety. We'll test semiconductor chips. That's where the heritage of the company resides. But we also test like the dashboards vehicles, the infotainment systems, lighting systems in cars, onboard computing systems in vehicles, but all pre-testing before it gets to the consumer.
So Nick, can you describe testing? For example, when you're talking about chips and such, like what are we testing? Are we testing the connection? Are we testing the validity of it? Are we testing is it like a last mile solution right before it goes to the consumer? Talk about what you exactly, or is it one size does not fit all? Explain that a little.
Yeah, it's performance of that chip before it gets sent to the customer. That'll put the chip onto a board, and the board will get installed into some instrument or some consumer device that is now a smart device out in the homes or anything like that. But it's the chip itself for our back-end semi sales, and it's testing. Is that chip meeting its expectations performance-wise?
Okay, so here's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Your addressable market is like $900 billion.
It's the world.
It's the world. This is perhaps the most successful business. Like, this is Google and then them. Yeah. If you capture 0.0001% of the market, you're bigger than Meta. Talk about that because the addressable market is insane, isn't it not?
Yeah, well, it's pretty big. It's a couple billion, but we are serving a wide variety of different technologies and through 6 different businesses that we have. So when you slice it down by business, it's not quite a Meta type outcome, but we do believe there's a lot of growth here for us.
What are you most looking forward to end of 2024, 2025? In so much as you can talk to us, I know you're CEO of a company, you can't tell us everything, but what's next for you guys in your opinion?
Yeah, well, really, we acquired a business I mentioned and giving us a stronger footprint in automotive, testing these display systems for dashboards.
Can I interrupt? Has your life changed amazingly in the last 8 years? Because you realize when you open up the hood of a car, they just poured aluminum in. You can't see anything. And when you get in the car now, I don't care if you're in a Volt or a Prius or a Mercedes AMG GT63, it is a freaking, it looks like Tom Cruise in the movie Vanilla Sky.
You can't tinker with it.
No, but the point is,
you can't.
But even the lowest price point car is all about the computer in the dashboard, right? That has changed everything for you folks, right?
And that's exactly why we got this acquisition. We believe the electronification of these cars is only going to continue, driving to autonomous vehicles over time, and that's all going to need to be tested, and that's where we're well positioned to capture.
Is there a problem with technology in terms of, if you think in terms of the fact that we have a computer that we bought 2 years ago, and now you've asked me you need a laptop.
Yeah.
Because it's out of date.
Yeah.
2 freaking years ago. Okay, last time I checked, you launched a rocket with your computer, okay, compared to 1960. You guys have got to be pretty nimble in terms of what's going to come. Like, the next 2 years, your technology now, or what you're testing, completely goes off the table, correct? You have to have an engineering department getting ready for the next gen, right?
Oh, that's exactly right. We're working with the end users on the next generation products, developing the test solutions, keeping up with the capacity expansions of existing models that are out there, existing products out there. So yeah, it's a constant churn, and it creates new opportunities, and engineering is key to it. And that's the name of the game for us.
Nick Grant is the president CEO inTEST Corporation, their ticker symbol INTT. Nick, so does a company send you let's say we're talking about the chips. They send you a chip, you test it, it's viable, it's good to go, and you give them their stamp of approval. Hey, go make 1 billion of these now. Is that how it works, or how does it work?
Well, yeah. So they don't send us the chips. These chips are usually still on the wafer, and we work with them to design an interface that will allow to come down and contact the wafer at the various locations that need to be tested for each of the chips on that. And so that's designed and then shipped to the testing locations, depending on the customers or the tests.
But honestly, it's amazing because if you think in terms of addressable market, I don't think I've seen a bigger addressable market in my life, other than maybe.
He had me at wafers. So
yeah, I was going to say, I figured you were going
chips and wafers.
Vanilla wafer.
First thing he thought about was Oreos.
Oh. Everything's better on a Ritz.
And fairly,
and that's only half of our business.
And fairly, he also said chips. He said chips several times.
The light bulb finally went on for mine. Wafers.
Can you call one of your products Dip next time? Because it's the Funyun 5000.
Good
Nick,
stuff.
thanks, buddy. We want to have you back, pal. I appreciate it. INTT. Good stuff.
Amazing.